Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I am super excited to share with you, at long last, the dice casting system, which is Divination with Tabletop Dice, created by me and my bestie, Lisa Pepez. Okay, so we have been working on developing the system for quite a while. I know we've been talking about it. I've been personally using the system for several months now, and we took all of that information and combined it into a PDF for you. So I'll leave a link for that below so you can grab this copy. I'm going to show you the PDF version, which I have imported into GoodNotes because there are some hyperlinks that allow you to jump around the document if you use it that way. It does work as just a generic PDF as well. It will work on any reader. You'll see that there's a link for the printed version, which I have, of course, because I'm a nerd, like laminated and bound and did the whole thing. Also, just want to note that this entire PDF and everything, like, it's totally free. The only thing that you might need to purchase, assuming you probably have decks if you're watching my channel, is perhaps a set of D&D dice. This is, we'll go over what these are and what's included in the set here in a moment, but they're very affordable. However, there's also indie versions, which can, you know, basically be like buying an indie deck. However, you can get started with the dice casting system by grabbing this PDF and just grabbing yourself a set of cheap D&D dice from your local game store, bookstore, or off of places like Amazon. And they're usually, like, for a basic set around, you know, $10 to $20 US. So it's pretty affordable to get started. Again, there's no cost for the PDF. It's free. There's a link below. Also, Lisa will be doing a video showcasing the dice casting system. She is going to be talking specifically about two of the methods that we use. That's going to be dice only casting and using dice as clarifiers. In this video, I'm going to go over the basic system, and then I'm going to show you the card casting method. So this is using dice with your cards. Dice casting, I'll be perfectly honest, has become a staple in my practice. I use it all the time. I use dice for all kinds of different things, but in terms of being part of my divination practice, it's now a very substantial part. I use dice for very specific practices. I have dice that relate to specific decks. I'm gonna go into my full dice and deck collection, the combos that I use, in a separate video because I have a lot and it would be really overwhelming to do it all here in this place. So keep a look for that coming soon. In the meantime, let's go ahead and jump in because I'm real excited to talk to you about the dice casting system. Okay, so this dice casting system is basically Divination with Tabletop Dice. I'm just gonna go through the PDF fairly quickly. It will cover everything that you need to know in order to start working with this, and then I'll go into the card methods. So working with this document, all of these tabs, if you're using it in GoodNotes, are hyperlinked so you can jump around very quickly. The index is also hyperlinked. We're gonna go through the 3 parts of the document, and then I'm gonna jump into part 2, which is the 6-card method and the 3-card method, and I'm gonna be showing you some variations on that. So part 1, let's first get to know the dice, right? Okay, so there's a little introduction about how Lisa and I got started working with dice. For me personally, I've been using dice for quite a while, like in terms of gaming, right? And so over the last few years, I've been working on incorporating dice into my tarot practice in various ways. If you are in my membership here on YouTube at the Weaver level, you're probably very familiar with using dice and tarot together because we do that as part of our fellowship practice. And that is a guided tarot adventure, which is loosely based on D&D. It's not D&D, just need to be really clear about that. It's inspired by it. So it's inspired by the idea of tabletop gaming. We integrate dice into our work with decks. So if you're in that, you're probably very familiar with that. We're going to expand on that system using all 7 of the dice. So that's pretty much how I got into it. Like, it's been a part of my life. Gaming has been a part of my life since, like, I was a kid, right? I've never not been a gamer. So it was just kind of a natural, I think, progression to eventually get to this point where I'm trying to blend my 2 favorite things, which is gaming and tarot. And if you've been watching my play channel, which is Emberlore Plays, where Lisa and I play primarily Baldur's Gate 3, but there are going to be some other stuff coming up. We also use dice and cards in one of our games. It's the Monsters and Mayhem stream if you want to check it out. We do actually incorporate real dice and real tarot into that game, and it's lots of fun. But that's just an example of how I'm bridging the gap between, like, my 2 loves, right? So that's kind of where we're at. It's how I got into this whole thing. So let's talk about getting to know the dice. Okay, so there are 7 dice in a traditional tabletop gaming dice. They're often called D&D D&D dice, but they're not just exclusively for Dungeons and Dragons. It's just the most common thing they're used for. So we're going to talk about the different dice real quick. Again, all of this information is in this PDF guidebook. We have the D4, which is the little triangle looking one here. This is everybody's least favorite dice to roll because it actually doesn't roll very well. It kind of thunks down. In this dice casting system, so I'm going to be talking about how we use this dice in this system, not necessarily how you would use it in a tabletop game or in a D&D campaign. So those are two very different things. We have given all the dice an assigned meaning and purpose within the context of this system. So our D4 is our energy dice, and this represents the 4 elements. Number 1 is air, number 2 is water, number 3 is fire, number 4 is earth. So this represents the 4 elemental energies that show up influencing, guiding, or supporting your reading. Next, we have the D6. This is the most common dice that people are familiar with. It's just a traditional cube dice. And for this dice represents our advice dice. This is actually the dice that we use at the end of the reading. It relates to what will help or guide you in moving forward to this message. We have the 6 correspondences to the 6 numbers, and they are loosely actually related to the chakras as well. Our D8 is this little guy here, little 8-sided die. In this system, it represents the phase. So where you currently are in with regard to the question or the situation. So each number has an association. So like 1 is intention, you're clarifying, aligning, affirming. 4 would be momentum, progress, motivation, resilience. 7 would be introspection, reflection, integration, contemplation. Again, I'll show you how all these things tie into a reading here in a moment. So then we have our 10s, and there's 2 D10s in a traditional set. You have your standard D10, which has 10 numbers. Also to note that 0 is actually the 10, so it doesn't say 10, it says 0. Same here with the percentile, and this is in multiples of 10. These dice get cast together to create a whole number. Again, I'll show you how that works. And what these do is add more context and specificity to your reading. So it's kind of going to tell you like what's going on within the context of the reading based around the numbers that you pull. These are things like if it's a 0 to 9, it's ending, cycles, return. If it's a 40 to 49, it's structure, stability, manifestation. An 80 to an 89 would be mastery, conduct, application. These are based loosely on numerological associations. And again, I'll show you how I personally incorporate those into readings. So then we have our D12, which in our system represents the houses or area of interest that this relates to. So these are based on the 12 astrological houses. Again, we do have sort of the ruling planets and things like that in here, but that's just a layer you can add if you want. You can also just look at, if I roll a 1, and looking at identity, reputation, behavior, self-expression. So you can take the astrology out of it if you want, or you can add even more of it in. And then finally, we have our D20, and this is the quintessential dice, right? This is the one that everybody uses for absolutely everything. And in this system, the D20 is the archetype dice. So it relates to the archetypal influence, which all relate to the major arcana. You will note that there is not a 0, which is the Fool. So the Fool is actually you. You're on this journey, right? The Fool's journey. And there is no world association because the world is the completion, the whole reading. And then in between, we have everything from our magician down to our judgment, each of the numbers corresponding to the number on the dice. So if I roll a 6, it's a Lovers, and it relates to commitment, choice, or partnership, and or whatever you associate the Lovers to mean. So you can just use your own traditional tarot associations for the major arcana. So let's talk about how we kind of envision this casting system. We tend to cast all the dice at once just because that's really fun, and we tend to work in this sort of circular order. However, it's a circle, it's not linear, which means you can kind of go either way with it. So you could start with your energy, which is your D4, and then you could go to your archetypal energy, so your major arcana, or you could go the other way and start with the advice, like what do you need to know, right? So the way we kind of work with the reading is going in this particular order. You can go backwards, you can move them around. It's flexible. Do what you want with it. Do what makes sense for you. Incorporate what you feel is necessary for the reading. The way we tend to work with it is we start with our source energy. Sometimes I start with my archetype and pull my source last. So also good to note that you can start kind of jump in the circle in any place that you want to. Sometimes I start with the source reading, which is what we're going to do today. Sometimes I start with my archetype, and I will go all the way around the reading and end at the source. So it's really just a matter of where you feel comfortable starting. So we go from our energy to our archetype, to our house or area of interest, to our percentiles with the process, to our phase, pleased with where we're at, and then finally our support and our advice. So that's kind of the method that we use. Again, it's very fluid, so however you feel like it works for you, definitely go for it. So what I'm going to be talking with you today about is the two different kind of base methods, which is the 6-card method, which you see here, which uses 6 cards and all 7 dice. This is just the format that works really well if you're following sort of the circle. Most of the time it lays out well on the table, but like feel free to move any of the cards around and put them in any position that you feel works for the context of your reading. There's also an alternative 3-card here where we're going to be using several dice on 1 card for a 3-card reading, but using all 7 dice. And I'm going to show you both of those methods, and then I'm going to show you some different variations on them. So then in the very back here, we have our quick references, which just lists out all of the dice and what they're used for. We also have kind of a quick list for each of those things, and then, well, a little bit about us. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into actually working with the dice and the cards. Showing you the main methods, I'm going to be using my Wild Unknown pocket and, you know, my own deck, because why wouldn't I, right? This is my Sacred Threads Oracle in the Pocket Edition, and beautiful bag. Shout out to Crystal Haven UK for the design. This bag is available for purchase from their Etsy shop, so I'll leave a link for that below because it's a beautiful little bag collab we did, which was so much fun. Okay, so I'm gonna show you first the 6-card method. I'm going to show you with tarot only, and then I'm going to show you how I would incorporate Oracle into this in case I wanted to do that. I'm going to be showing you different card and dice combo methods here in this video, but they are all primarily based on the 6 or the 3-card method. Now you can come up with your own methods as well, lay cards, throw dice. You can use the system that we've got, or, you know, develop your own. That's the great thing about this. It's very fluid, it's very flexible, and it can be used in any number of ways. Okay, so let me show you kind of how I go about doing this when I'm working through this method. There are various ways you could do it, but what I do is I start with my 6-card spread here. And this is one of the few times that I actually lay my cards face down, because I'm going to be working through this reading 1 card, 1 dice at a time. Generally, I get a little dice casting. This is the lid from my box. Y'all have probably seen those. I've got lots of them running around for various dice collections. Okay, so I'm just going to give the dice a shake. I'm going to cast them in my box. So as we go, I'm going to pull the dice out, see what number it landed on, and see what card it belongs to. And then as we go, or as I go, if I were doing this as a real reading, I would definitely be having a journal, making notes about the dice, the cards, and then I would do my reflections. So in this 6-card method, I'm going to be starting at the top here with the energy and the archetype. These are going to be sort of the overarching of my reading. My energy, I'm going to flip my card over, is the Father of Cups, and I'm going to look at my D4, and it's on the 3, so it's the number that's on the top. So it's a 3 that relates to fire, so I would have the element of fire is the guiding energy, and I have that in relation to the Father of Cups. Next, I would flip over my archetype, and I got the Ace of Wands, and I look at my D20, and my D20 is a 2. So that's going to relate to the High Priestess. And how I'm working with these is that I'm looking at, within the realm of the High Priestess, I have the Ace of Wands. So what that's going to tell me is the High Priestess relates to like intuition, hidden knowledge, inner voice, those type of things. So I would look at how the Ace of Wands correlates to that sort of energy. So that's kind of my guiding energy for this whole reading. Then I'm going to move down to kind of this main row here, and this is kind of like what's going on in the reading. So I'm going to start with my house here. So this is the area of focus, and I have got the 6 of Wands, and I'm going to pull here my D12, and I got 3. So self-expression, learning, connection. So I can think of the dice as kind of like spread positions when I'm working with it in this way, right? So in this position of communication, I have the 6 of Wands. So in the process, I have the 4 of Swords. Now I'm going to look to my percentiles for this. So I put them together like this, and it would read 006. So this is basically a 6. So that means that where I'm at in the process is that 0 to 9. So that endings, cycles, returns. So how I work with these in particular, I'm just going to pull this page out so I can show you real quick. Each of these number systems has sort of like a beginning, middle, and end. This is just how I personally personally use them. It's not how everybody uses them. But if the number is closer to 0, for me, it would indicate an ending. If it's closer to 5, so between 0 and 5, I'm moving towards cycles. If it's closer to 9, I'm at return. So I kind of look at the 3 keywords as the beginning, the middle, and the end of that energy. So working toward that first number, so 10 would be seed, around a 15 would be beginnings, and 19 is potential. That is just personally how I work with those. I use the number to tell me kind of where I am, like it's a sliding scale. So that's how I personally use it. However, you can also just look at it and go, I rolled a 32, and I'm using all 3 of those keywords to help me understand where I'm at in the process. So again, the system is very fluid. You can use it however it is that you want and what makes sense to you. So next I'm gonna turn over my phase card to see where I'm at in this work. And I've got the 5 of Pentacles. I'm gonna pull my D8 here, and I've got a 6. So that tells me that in this process, I am at the stage of release, surrender, transformation, liberation. So I'm looking at the 5 of Pentacles in relation to that release energy. So again, I would be writing these down, kind of looking at these as a reading on the whole, using the dice kind of like spread positions in this way. You can also use them as kind of that's the overarching energy in relation to that card as well. Okay, and then finally we have our advice. So this is kind of like what we're gonna do. What's the takeaway? So here I got the 2 of Swords, and we use the D6 for that, and I got a 6, which is awareness. So this relates to vision, discernment, and perception. So my advice at the end of this reading is to look at where maybe I'm having some conflicting energies in my realm of awareness, right? In my vision, my perception. So that would be my reading on the whole. So kind of like where I started, what the overarching energy is, the elemental energy, the archetypal energy. Then we have the actual reading here in the center where we have the area of the focus, the process, and the phase. So this is kind of like where we are, what we're doing, what's going on. And then we have the advice here at the end. So real quick, I'm just going to show you if I were to be using a oracle deck, generally the oracle, when I do the 6-card process this way, I would replace the advice card with an oracle card and use that. So I got stability with my awareness. We could also use an oracle card at the beginning in the elemental energy, which kind of gives us starting with an oracle, and I got reverence in the realm of fire. So this also gives us the idea of starting with a oracle, going through the reading, and ending with an oracle. So that's an alternative to the 6-card method using oracle as well. So for the 3-card method, I'm gonna lay just 3 cards as I would for any sort of 3-card reading. I'm just gonna go ahead and lay them face up. So I've got Judgment, the 8 of Pentacles, and the 7 of Pentacles. So we're gonna be basically pairing 2 of the dice in little groupings to represent each of the cards. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my dice a cast here, and we're gonna go, card number 1 is both our energy, so D4 there, and I got 4, which is earth, so that relates to our physical body, physical self. I got the archetypal energy of 20, which is really interesting because that's judgment. So I've got judgment and judgment. That's a whole lot of judgment going on. So this represents the overarching energy. And in this overarching energy of judgment in the realm of fire, we have judgment again. So I would work with these 3 energies together. So the next little grouping here that we have is kind of like, and you'll see this represents kind of those 3 columns that I had before. Now I'm just breaking them down into 3 cards and grouping them up. So in our second position, we have our D12 and our D10s, which is going to give us our house, or our area of focus, and our process. So for our house, I got a 5, and that is the realm of pleasure. So we've got enjoyment, creativity, hobbies. We've got the 8 of Pentacles there. So our percentiles, we read the double number first, so I have an 80 and a 1. So this is 81. So where I am at in this process would be mastery, conduct, application. Now remember I talked about using them in their order as a sliding scale. So 81 is very, very close to the beginning. So I would use that first keyword, which is mastery. We're in the process of mastering this 8 of Pentacles, which is in the realm of pleasure, right? This is like doing soul work. Our third and final card then is our phase and our support. So where we are in this work and what would help support us. So for my phase, I've got my D8 here, and I got a 7, which relates to introspection, reflection, integration, and contemplation. So sitting in that energy, this is where I'm at with this work. And then finally, we've got our advice with our D6, and I got a 4, which is harmony, so compassion, acceptance, and peace. So looking at this 7 of Pentacles and being in this energy of harmony, of kind of acceptance and peace, like accepting that it's going to take some time to create this soul work. So now I've kind of used these 7 dice to give me this framework for these 3 cards. So again, we can kind of look at those as spread positions. So the first position is kind of that overarching energy. The second position is kind of like where we are in the work. And the third position is what we need to do to kind of keep moving forward with it. So that's the 3 card method. Now let's get into using a couple of different types of cards. So now let's talk about using it with tarot and Lenormand, because this is a really interesting way to work with them as well. I'm going to use the full dice set. Here I've got the Tarot de Carlotides and the Paper Oracle. And because I actually do not own a pink set of dice, I know, it's really not surprising, but we're going to use my poison dice for fun. We are going to use the 6 card method because that is my favorite. However, the 3 card method works just as well. You could also do like larger spreads and just assign dice to certain positions as well as certain groupings. So that's an alternative. If you wanted to do like a 12 card reading, you could do 2 cards for each dice. So there's really no limit to what you can do. So let's go ahead and we're gonna pull out our cards. I'm going to do them in my first and second and sixth position. And then in the middle here, this is where I'm going to integrate my Lenormand. So I'm going to move through these fairly quickly because I have a lot of little card examples to show you. So I'm going to take my dice and I'm going to cast. These are terrible dice to try and read on camera. So our energy, our primal elemental energy, we got the Emperor and the number 2. And 2 relates to water, so the emotional heart relationships feeling. Then we've got our archetypal energy and we got the World. I love when we get an archetype in the archetypal position. And my dice roll was a 16, which relates to the Tower, so destruction, chaos, shattered illusions with the World. I mean, pretty potent, right? Now I'm gonna move through my Lenormand line here, where we've got our house with our area of focus, our percentile with our process, and our phase. So our house, we've got the Bear, beautiful, with a 5. So again, in the house of pleasure. So Bear in the house of pleasure. That house of pleasure keeps coming up for me. Then we pull our second Lenormand card, which is the Anchor. So this is where we are in the process. Again, I'm gonna pull my D10s here. So the Anchor, 98. So this is like amplification, culmination, fruition. Again, leaning more towards that third keyword. So the Anchor is fruition, like really having trouble getting to that finish line. So then we have our phase of where we're at in this work. We got the Familiar. So where we're at is a 2, and that is awareness. So insight, focus, and planning. So there's an awareness that there's a big anchor like weighing you down, not letting you get to the end of the project. Anyway, but since I'm working with these with Lenormand, I would actually use these and read them like a Lenormand reading. So I'm taking that Lenormand, I'm adding the dice over the top of it, and then I'm integrating my tarot reading into it. Hopefully that makes sense. Finally, we've got our advice. So our advice is the King of Cups with our D6, and we got a 4. So the advice is again, harmony, compassion, acceptance, peace. Different dice sets, still rolling the same numbers. Love when that happens. All right, so our next little example, we're gonna incorporate a little bit of kind of like gameplay elements into this. Still doing a real reading, still doing divination, but this time we're gonna be working with some game cards. So I have my white Newman here for my tarot. I have my white dice here, which is gonna be terrible to show up on camera. And then here, what I have is my deck of many fates and things. Now this is an actual D&D deck. There's many different versions of this by many different creators. I did a one-shot reading showing how I work with these. I'll leave that link below for you. These are not traditional oracle cards, but we're going to use them like they're oracles, and it makes for a really, really interesting reading. We're gonna go like this, so that we have room to show all of these big cards. This is an interesting reading. Okay, So what we're gonna do now is do our same casting. I've just got them in a little bit of a different configuration. Again, it doesn't really matter where you put them. You can put them anywhere you want on the table because you're gonna relate the dice to the cards. So the dice are gonna create that position and then you can put the cards wherever you want. So we've got our source. We've got 4 is Earth, physical body with the King of Swords. Then we've got our archetypal energy. I love when I get an archetype in an archetype because that is extremely powerful energy. We've got the 12 with the Hanged One is the overarching energy with death. Really interesting there. Our D12, our houses, we've got the 3 of Cups. Where's my 12? I've got a 10. And that is in the house of status. So achievement, recognition, aspiration. It's great with the 3 of Cups, right? That definitely feels like maybe friends coming together to celebrate achievement. It's fantastic. So then we have the process here, which is our Hierophant. Again, we're gonna use our D10s for this. So I've got a 10 and a 9, so that's 19. 19 with the Hierophant, and 19 gets me to that 10 to 19 phase, so seeds beginning potential. So I'm at the 19, I'm at the highest expression of this energy in this process with the Hierophant. So that's really interesting. I got a lot of majors on the table. Then in our phase here, we have the Chariot. So I'm gonna pull my D8 for my phase. I got the 4, so we're looking at momentum, progress, motivation, and resilience. That's great. So the different kind of gamified layer that I'm adding to this with this other deck is that in the advice card, I've pulled a Many Fates and Things. So I'm gonna look at the card title, I'm gonna look at the card imagery, and then I'm gonna read what it says down here. So it says resurrect one dead character, one aspect of their personality is permanently changed. So I'm going to use that as the basis for my advice. We're going to go into a 3. So my advice is power, autonomy, purpose, and willpower. So I'm going to keep that in mind. And because my advice is to resurrect one dead character, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull an additional card into this. I just happen to have, this is the Molly Mox deck. It's related to Critical Role, another gamified deck. I'm going to pull one of these as my resurrection. So one aspect of personality or self that's going to be changed through this work. I cannot shuffle today. Okay, and I've got that with the 3. So my advice is to tap into this power because 3 is the power number, autonomy, purpose, and willpower. So let's pull a Molly Mock card and see what we get. I think that says Dawn. Sometimes this deck is hard for me to read. This is a deck that has, reversed meaning. So on this side we have Dawn and on this side we have Death. I pulled the Dawn side. So some aspect of Dawn that needs to change. Don't you love cards? They just so call you out on everything. I love that. But in reverse, we also have Death. So I can pull this in even further because I actually have a Death card on the table. So maybe this is telling me, this is me going into now, I'm gonna just full on do my own thing with this reading because I've got this card that's giving me permission to play outside of the context of a normal reading. So what aspect needs to change? What power do I need to tap into is Dawn. So really we're looking at what does that mean? Like new beginnings, right? New things, a new horizon. And what needs to change around that is that Death energy, which I happen to have here on the table. So in that archetypal realm, that's the Death card is what needs to change. And I got it in the archetype of the Hanged Man. So maybe what actually needs to change is my perception around it, right? So this is me going full on into the weeds with this reading, sort of gamifying it and allowing play to come through my work where I'm not just sitting with the reading as it is, just the 6 cards that I laid down, right? And the 7 dice. Now I'm allowing the cards to give me more context, to give me places to play and to explore. You could do this with all kinds of different decks. It wouldn't have to necessarily be D&D decks. They work really great for this sort of process. If I wanted to, I could also do a quick little variation on this. I'm not going to go into a full reading because we will be here forever. I can pull my tarot on the top for my 2 energies. Let's put them over here. And then this time I'm going to pull my Many Fates and Things. There is another also Friends and Foes and things like that, which I also have, but that becomes a really big deck. So I didn't pull them out today. So we have Tempest, we have night, and we have flame. And for each of these, I would read the descriptions and see what does that mean to me. And then this time I'm going to pull a tarot for the advice. I could pull an oracle too, but I just didn't feel like getting another oracle card out. Okay, so let's just cast, and we'll do this one hopefully fairly quickly. I'm not gonna go through the whole play aspect of it because it would take me forever, but we'll just do a quick rundown. So we've got a 3 for our primal energy with the 10 of Pentacles. We got a 6 with the Lovers for that 8 of Pentacles for the archetypal energy. Then for my house, the area of focus, we got a 4. And so there's at this point where I would start looking at these cards. So this says Tempest. It says your immediate vicinity is racked by a terrible storm. If you are inside, the structure is destroyed entirely. Every character takes 2d10 damage. Could I roll that? Yes, I absolutely could. I would need a secondary set of dice. Oh, we should look at what our 4 is, because this is our area of focus, and our 4 is home. So tradition, comfort, and security. So is there a storm brewing at home? That could be what that's saying. So because I have D10s, I'm gonna roll my percentile for this. So I'm still using the base structure that we've associated with the D10s, which is the process. So I'm gonna get process again, which is interesting. Okay, so this time I got 51. It does say roll it twice. If I really wanted to, I could roll it twice, but you know, for expediency, we're not going to roll twice. So I'm in this house, there's a storm a-brewing, and the process related to this particular unique energy is a 51, and that is conflict. Is that just not fitting? Like, there's not conflict in my family, it's fine. But you can see here how I'm actually like incorporating now what the cards are telling me to do. So in this second position for the actual process of the overarching, we got 51. Pull the right dice. Are you kidding me? 51 again, conflict. All right, and this one is a knight. And it says, gain the service of a 4th level fighter. It is the same race as you and serves you loyally to the death. So for me, this says gain the service. I'm gonna get something. Somebody's gonna come and help me. Could I pull Oracle for this? Absolutely. I'm gonna pull Molly Mock's Oracle. I said I wasn't gonna do a reading, but these are just fun. All right, I got chaos. So my knight is gonna bring some chaos. On the flip side of that is joy, but I pulled chaos. So yeah, there's some chaos going on in this process, this conflict. It is chaos and conflict all together in one. That's a lot of energy going on in this one particular reading. Okay, then in our third position over here, we have our phase. So this is like where we're at in this process. I got a 2, so we're in the phase of awareness. That's insight, focus, and planning. Let's see what this little guy says. Flame. A powerful devil becomes your enemy. It seeks your ruin and plagues your life, savoring your suffering before attempting to slay you. Man, this is a brutal reading. And I would be looking at this going, this is Pentacles. This is relating to some conflict within work. I know I pulled house, but house for me is also work. So is there some chaos, conflict going on in the realm of trying to get work done? Absolutely, always is. Love that. All right, so flame. So this is a powerful devil is gonna come and plague me for my life, right? Okay, cool. I'm now aware of this because I got the awareness dice. So I'm now aware of this, and what I'm gonna do now is pull another Molly Mock card to see what basically, this is a conflict energy, right? So where this was kind of like something that's coming to be helpful, this knight is coming to be helpful, and maybe he's bringing helpful chaos, that's fine. Maybe he's gonna bring some chaos in that's gonna help settle that conflict down. I know that sounds like 2 negatives making a positive, sometimes it works. This is looking at something that's like an obstacle, something to overcome, right? This devil's coming to ruin my life, and I'm not gonna let him because I'm now aware of it. So I'm gonna pull a Molly Mock card to see, and I got the rumor. That's funny. So maybe, and the opposite of that is the book. Always interesting to see how that works out. So maybe it's the rumor that's going to be the causing the conflict. That's the devil is the rumor. Maybe people talking. I don't know. Are people talking? Probably. Do I care? Not really. So where I'm at in the phase of this process is maybe being aware of that kind of energy and what's going on, and maybe not letting it be the conflict, not letting it like overtake my life, right? So then finally in our advice column here, we have the 9 of Swords, and I got a 4 with harmony again. So harmony, compassion, acceptance, peace, 9 of Swords, maybe putting those fears to rest because like, it's not really a thing, right? Maybe this was all just in my head and this was all just fears around work or whatever, the new stuff I'm creating, which is so outside the norm. And there's a lot of fear around that. Maybe I'm afraid people are going to talk badly about it. Maybe I'm afraid people aren't going to like it. It's creating some conflict. Here's me getting personal with it as always. But it's okay. Like it's all just in the realm of my mind, right? It's all just fears that I'm blowing way out of proportion that's causing all this disruption when what I'm trying to do is just do the work. So fitting. Love this. Great reading. This is how I play with dice and cards when I'm just sort of gamifying the whole experience. Again, you can do this with any sort of sets of cards. It does work really well with sort of game-inspired cards, but you could do the same process with oracle cards as well. Let's come back full circle with our Wild Unknown Tarot and our original set of dice. And I'm going to show you one last variation on the dice and card combo where I'm going to use just a few cards and all the dice. So this is basically a modified version of the 3 card. So I'm going to cast my dice over here and then I'm going to pull 3 cards. And again, for efficiency, we're just going to lay them face up. So I've got my 3 card reading here, which is basically just like you would do with any 3 card reading. You could also use a positional reading for this, which would be fun because that adds a whole nother layer on it. And this time what I'm going to do is not pull cards for the above and below. I'm just going to pull the dice. So we have the elemental energy is a 1, and that is air. So we're looking at the realm of intellect, mind, communication, thinking. My archetypal energy is the 10. So we're looking at the wheel, change, fortune, serendipity, things of that nature. Then I'm going to go down here for my focus. Again, pulling my D12 for my house, the 12th house, which is subconscious, secret fears, hidden desires, and dreams with the Son of Swords here. Then I've got my process with my percentiles and the 9 of Wands. My percentiles give me a 56. So we're in conflict, instability, upheaval. Upheaval energy can be good because that's gonna create some change, right? And being that I have the wheel here with this dice, this makes sense. I've got some change coming in this area, this 9 of Wands. Then for my phase where I'm at in the work, I've got the D8 with an 8. So we've got rest for healing, recovery, and renewal. And I've got that Ace of Pentacles. So maybe it's taking some time to rest before I embark on the next thing, the next project, right? Where before I plant that next seed that's going to grow, taking some time to deal with this that's going on. And my advice, I've got the 3. And the advice is, again, power, autonomy, purpose, and willpower. So maybe thinking about, how I can tap into my own personal power to work on this energy here. So in this way, I'm using the dice primarily as the main system and just adding the cards to add a little bit of context around the areas of the focus of the reading, the process of the reading, and the phase of the reading. So where it's at, what I need to be working on, where I'm at in that work. And then I have the dice for the overarching energy and the advice. Again, also using these dice to add another layer to that work. So there we go. That is a look at how I work with dice within my divination practice, how I'm using dice casting as an additional layer to my practice. Most of the time it is my go-to method nowadays. I use it all the time for just about absolutely everything. We talked a little bit about the process, the structure, how we go about it. We talked about working with different cards and adding in different systems and how I specifically work with those. Again, if you want to see Lisa's take on it, as well as more information about working with the dice on their own and using dice specifically as clarifiers, definitely go check out Lisa's video. It is linked in the description box below. This is an entire system or process that Lisa and I created together. Again, that PDF that we have created for you is linked also down in this description box below. It is free. There's no charge for it. All that we ask is that if you use it and you share it, please just include a link back to both of us, and we would really appreciate it. In the meantime, if you give this method a try and you find some really great new exciting things to do with it, or you just want to share how you've been working with it, definitely please reach out, let me know, comment below. If you're in my membership, like in the Discord, all the good things. I definitely want to hear about it. Post it on Instagram. I love seeing everybody working with dice and cards. It's a huge part of my practice now, and I'm so excited to be able to finally kind of introduce it to other people and to let them get the chance to play with it in the same way that Lisa and I have been. We have found it to be a fun and practical method of divination. As you saw me do, it can be used for very serious readings, but it can also be used very much in a play sense as well. I'm all about incorporating play into my practice these days. If you are interested in working with dice and cards together, definitely check out my membership. We are doing the fellowship, which is a whole entire narrative journey where we are using dice and cards. Also, just keep an eye out here in my space here on YouTube and on Instagram, because there are some other things in the works. And if you really want to see some chaos with some dice and cards, go check out Lisa and I's Baldur's Gate 3 Monsters stream. Again, I'll leave that below. That's just full on chaos. We make no apologies. So that's it for me today. Again, I will leave links for everything featured here in the description box of this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you very much to Lisa for helping me create this beautiful system to share with you all. And I hope that you all enjoy it. Definitely let us know. Share with us if you try it yourself, if you come up with your own versions. We are very excited to hear about it and to see everybody's work with dice casting.